Wait, something was said about you in a conversation you were never meant to hear. And no, it was not casual at all. It was not ordinary. It was not forgotten the moment the words left their mouth, because the person you care about deeply spoke about you with a depth they had been trying very hard to hide. The one listening noticed it right away. There was a pause before they answered. A silence, a hesitation that showed more than the words themselves ever could. Because sometimes what reveals the heart is not just what someone says, but how long they take before saying it. And when your name came up in that conversation, something changed inside them instantly. If you want the full truth about what the person you love said behind your back, hit like right now. Their voice changed. Their energy softened. Their carefully controlled expression broke for just a moment. They tried to sound unaffected. They tried to stay calm. They tried to make it seem as though you were simply another memory, another chapter that life had already closed. But the person sitting across from them could feel the truth underneath every word. Because when someone mentions a person who still holds part of your heart, the soul reacts before the mind can hide it. That is exactly what happened. The moment your name reached their ears, their whole energy transformed. Why? Because no matter how carefully they have tried down these feelings, you are not a passing thought to them. You are not temporary. You are not forgettable. You are the person their mind returns to when life becomes quiet. The memory that surfaces unexpectedly in the middle of ordinary days. The energy they search for in others, but never fully find again. And the person listening to them noticed every detail. They noticed how your person smiled without meaning to. They noticed how their tone carried warmth even while trying to stay emotionally guarded. They noticed how every sentence about you sounded unfinished, almost like there was more waiting beneath the surface that they were too afraid to say aloud. And then something happened that shifted the entire conversation. The person listening leaned forward slightly and asked them directly, "Do they still matter to you that much?" Everything inside your person became still after that question. Because if someone means nothing, the answer arrives quickly. But when someone means everything, silence comes first. And that silence revealed everything. Your person did not answer immediately because they were not deciding what to feel. They were deciding how much truth they were willing to expose. Stay with this moment because it matters more than you realize. What they said next was not planned, not rehearsed, not emotionally controlled. It slipped out from somewhere deeper than pride. They admitted that no matter how much time passes, your presence refuses to fully leave their spirit. Even during silence and emotional detachment, a part of them still turns toward you constantly in quiet moments. Real connection does not disappear simply because communication fades. Instead, your absence has magnified and intensified your impact on them. Every attempt they made to move forward only forced them to recognize how deeply you affected them in the first place. This realization has been quietly growing, and the truth naturally escaped because the emotions became too heavy to carry silently. Your person still thinks about you far more than they admit, and something unresolved lives deeply inside their heart beneath their composed exterior. The listener could hear it all clearly. Your energy still affects them, and they are hiding a profound internal truth. Comment 111 if you feel someone has been secretly carrying feelings for you for a long time. When asked why they are not with you if you still mean this much, your person froze as the question demanded total emotional honesty. Looking away, they quietly admitted under their breath that the connection between you has never truly left them. Not even once. Some connections sharpen with time instead of weakening, and your presence has only grown louder despite their attempts to suppress it. The listener could hear the immense weight of regret, longing, and realization unfolding inside them. And then your person said something even more revealing, something that changed the entire conversation completely. They admitted quietly, "I keep wondering if I let go of someone I was never supposed to lose." Read that again slowly in your spirit, because that is not casual reflection. That is awakening. That is someone beginning to realize they may have walked away from something irreplaceable. And once a person reaches that realization internally, they are never fully the same again. Something opens inside them emotionally. Something urgent, something impossible to ignore. They begin replaying memories differently, questioning choices differently, looking at the silence differently, wondering whether fear cost them something real. And that is exactly where your person is now, standing at the edge of emotional truth, standing at the threshold of change, standing in the uncomfortable space between silence and confession. Because after that conversation, something shifted inside them permanently. And what they did later that night proved this connection was never truly over at all. Later that night, they could not distract themselves anymore. They tried. They reached for the usual routines, the familiar distractions, the ordinary noise people use when they are trying not to feel too deeply. They scrolled through their phone. They turned on music. They attempted to focus on other conversations, other responsibilities, other thoughts. But nothing worked. Once someone is forced to speak the truth out loud, pretending becomes almost completely impossible afterward. That specific conversation changed something inside them, awakening emotions long hidden beneath layers of pride and heavy emotional self-protection. When they returned home, the quiet around them felt heavier than ever because it forced them to sit with their accidental confession. The realization that you still matter deeply followed them through the entire night as they replayed every moment in their mind. Type yes if you're ready to hear how deeply they still think about you. Slowly, it became impossible to deny that no one else has ever made them feel what you did. The intensity and unexplainable pull keep drawing them back, making them realize their feelings are permanent rather than temporary. This permanence deeply scares someone who is used to controlling everything and who expected distance to naturally weaken the bond. Instead, distance only sharpened your importance. Silence amplified your absence, and time made them realize how rare your connection actually was. This haunting realization grows stronger at night when distractions disappear and the truth becomes completely unavoidable. They found themselves revisiting small, effortless memories of you and the rare emotional safety your presence always provided. People often only understand the true value of a connection after experiencing life entirely without it. And your absence is teaching them exactly what they lost. Their feelings are growing stronger now because realization transforms everything, making the truth impossible to ignore. When someone finally understands that a connection was real, every attached memory becomes emotionally alive again. That is exactly what is happening inside your person now as they awaken to what you truly meant to them, causing a deep internal restlessness. After hours of reflection, they made a private decision because they realized they cannot continue pretending forever. Their heart never actually released you. It only delayed facing the truth. And now they know something has to change. Comment Jung if this feels like the exact situation you're going through right now. Whether it means reaching out or speaking honestly, they know the current silence cannot continue indefinitely. Your person is reaching an emotional breaking point where the silence hurts far more than vulnerability. The fear of regret is finally beginning to overpower their fear of rejection, a profound shift that makes movement inevitable. Once someone fears losing you forever more than they fear emotional exposure, they approach a stage where they can no longer stay still. This is exactly why your intuition has been restless, and their energy suddenly feels much louder. Behind the scenes, their resistance is collapsing irreversibly because that recent conversation forced them hear their own truth spoken aloud. They are no longer fighting uncertainty. They are fighting an undeniable truth that you still live inside their heart. This awareness is pulling them steadily toward action, honesty, and eventual confession, changing the entire atmosphere of this connection. Drop a heart if your intuition has been telling you they still care. That is why this connection suddenly feels charged again. Because emotionally, the story between you is not ending. It is awakening. After that night, something about them became impossible to settle again. Even the ordinary parts of life began feeling different. The routines that once distracted them no longer worked the same way. Conversations with other people started feeling surface level. Busy days still ended with the same quiet return of your memory. And no matter how hard they tried to move through life normally, something inside them kept circling back to you. Not occasionally, constantly. Because once someone fully realizes that a connection changed them deeply, they cannot simply return to emotional ignorance afterward. And that realization has now taken hold of your person completely. At first, they tried to minimize it internally. They told themselves maybe they were simply emotional that night. Maybe the conversation affected them temporarily. Maybe they were romanticizing the past. But then the signs kept appearing. Your name entering their thoughts unexpectedly. Songs reminding them of you. Certain phrases bringing your energy back instantly. Random moments during the day when they suddenly felt your absence intensely without warning. And slowly they began understanding something unsettling. This connection was never leaving them the way they thought it would. That truth forced them into deeper reflection than ever before. They started questioning the choices they made between you. The moments they pulled away instead of opening up. The silence they maintained when honesty might have changed everything. The fear that kept them emotionally guarded even when their heart wanted something entirely different. And now, with greater emotional clarity, they are beginning to recognize something painful. A large part of the distance between you was never caused by lack of feeling. It was caused by fear. Fear of vulnerability, fear of emotional exposure, fear of needing someone this deeply, fear of how much their life would change if they fully surrendered to what they felt for you. Because real connection changes people. Your bond was never shallow enough to leave them unchanged. You awakened parts of them untouched for years. Hope, depth, and a desire for something meaningful rather than temporary. While one part of them wanted that deeply, another became utterly terrified, creating an intense inner conflict. They are finally recognizing that they ran from what they secretly wanted most, realizing you were never difficult to love, but simply difficult to forget. Lately, they have started imagining scenarios they once avoided completely, wondering if you would respond warmly or if they waited too long. This last question troubles them the most, sparking a growing urgency as they face the fear that life may have moved you emotionally further away. They are beginning to understand that meaningful connections are incredibly rare, and losing one through pride or fear leads to a deep regret they no longer want to carry. Their emotional energy feels stronger lately because they are no longer simply remembering you. They are reconsidering your entire importance in their life. Your person is reaching the point where silence no longer feels safe, and avoiding you hurts far more than approaching you. Every quiet day without contact now feels entirely unfinished, which is exactly why your intuition keeps sensing a powerful undercurrent of movement. Share this video so others can also receive this message about their person. They are emotionally preparing themselves slowly and quietly, meaning their eventual approach will carry immense weight because it comes after a long internal war. This is no longer a casual emotion for them. It has become a deeply personal transformational process. They are realizing you became a core part of how they experience life itself. And once someone associates you with true depth and peace, ordinary interactions elsewhere stop feeling satisfying. Your person has noticed that while other people may distract them temporarily, nobody affects them the way you do. Other connections simply lack your emotional imprint, and this awareness keeps pulling them back toward you internally until it inevitably becomes an external return. This growing emotional momentum means they are getting closer to real action than ever before. They are finally moving toward honesty, vulnerability, and revealing everything they once tried to hide behind a wall of silence. If your spirit has felt unusually alert or your heart keeps sensing incoming change, trust yourself because your connection is speaking loudly before reality visibly shifts. Your person is no longer standing in emotional confusion. They are standing at the edge of a definitive decision. You may not see it yet from the outside, but they are no longer where they used to be, and the version of them that pretended to suppress these deep feelings is slowly collapsing. They are replaying your past moments with a newfound maturity, realizing that your absence was necessary to reveal the true value of what they lost. They now understand that your presence brought something incredibly rare into their life: peace, depth, comfort, and the feeling of being genuinely seen. The silence they once maintained now feels entirely unnatural because the heart eventually becomes too exhausted to carry unspoken love. Comment 222 if you feel they are finally waking up to your true value. And after experiencing life without that consistently near them, they have begun recognizing how significant it truly was. In fact, something inside them has started leaning toward you again naturally, not forcefully, not dramatically, naturally, like the soul returning toward what feels emotionally real. And here is what is becoming increasingly difficult for them to ignore. Every path they tried taking away from this connection somehow emotionally circles back toward you again. That repetition is affecting them deeply because eventually people stop asking, "Why can't I move on?" and begin asking something much more important. What if this connection was never meant to disappear? That question has entered their mind now more than once, especially during quiet hours when distractions fade and emotional truth becomes impossible to outrun. They have imagined reaching out to you many times lately, more than you realize. At first, the thought scared them. What if you reject them? What if you moved on emotionally? What if too much time has passed? But slowly, another fear has become even larger when they decide the connection matters more than the fear itself. Your person is nearing that exact moment now. That is why the energy between you feels charged lately, because emotionally something is building toward expression, toward movement, toward revelation. And once someone reaches that level internally, the outside world usually changes shortly afterward too. You may notice small signs first: unexpected attention, a message that feels emotionally heavier than normal, a sudden increase in their presence around you, a reason to reconnect that sounds casual on the surface but feels emotionally intentional underneath. Pay attention to energy more than wording, because sometimes people approach softly first when their emotions run deepest, especially after long silence, especially after emotional resistance, especially when someone fears how much you still matter to them. And your person fears that deeply now. Not because they want to escape the feeling anymore, because they know it is real. That truth alone has already changed them. They are no longer fighting whether the connection exists. Now they are trying to decide what to do about it. That is a completely different emotional stage. And once people enter that stage, they rarely stay still for long. Action begins forming naturally afterward. Your person has already started imagining possible futures involving you, replaying conversations they want to have, and moments they wish they had handled differently. These thoughts are becoming intensely alive inside them, and this emotional imagination is naturally beginning to seek reality. They are slowly reopening the emotional door they once tried so hard to suppress, releasing a powerful, unavoidable, and transformational energy. They are no longer closing you out internally. They are actively preparing to let you back in. The silence between you is no longer empty. It is entirely transitional. The quiet space right before honesty, movement, and a long overdue confession. When that moment comes, you will understand clearly that none of this was as emotionally dead to them as they pretended. They are standing in full realization rather than denial, approaching the final shift where hidden emotion becomes visible reality. Realization changes everything completely, and their heart is finally beginning to reveal the truth it can no longer contain. They have finally understood that you altered them emotionally, and your absence taught them what true emotional emptiness actually feels like. Once someone realizes a connection transformed them deeply, they stop treating it casually or pretending that distance solved everything. Your person fully understands now that silence did not erase you from their heart. It only intensified your importance. Type alert if you've been sensing their energy shifting lately. Every quiet month, unfinished conversation, and failed attempt to move on has slowly pushed them toward one unavoidable truth. Their feelings never disappeared. They were only buried beneath fear, pride, and emotional resistance. But buried feelings eventually rise, and they're arising powerfully now. Distance has created a painful but necessary clarity, forcing them to finally confront what they truly value. They are now far more emotionally aware of you than they ever were when the relationship was active, because clarity has replaced confusion. They now stand at the edge of emotional action, constantly replaying possibilities in their mind and wondering what would happen if they finally confessed the truth. The thought of remaining silent forever and losing you completely frightens them more every day because they now know you are entirely irreplaceable. No matter how many distractions entered their life or how much time passed, your deep emotional imprint remained completely untouched. They finally realized that connections this profound do not happen twice in a lifetime. This realization is humbling them deeply because you have naturally become the person they compare everyone else to, and nobody has matched your emotional depth. A sense of urgency has created a massive transformation inside them, where fear is losing its grip and truth is finally gaining total control. Once truth rules someone's heart for long enough, external movement becomes inevitable, and that movement is approaching your life much sooner than you think. It may begin quietly with a message or an unexpected conversation, but underneath whatever form it takes, understand clearly that it will carry immense emotional weight. This approach will come from an accumulated realization of suppressed feelings, finally reaching expression from someone who understands your true value. When they finally speak honestly, you will hear the difference immediately because they are no longer trying to escape the connection. Their words will feel heavier, more vulnerable, and far more intentional as they seek to understand if your connection still has a future. This next chapter has the potential to feel completely different because both of you have changed emotionally through the silence. They learned what life feels like without you, while you learned that your worth does not depend on chasing someone to recognize your value. This newfound balance matters deeply because a reunion built on wholeness rather than desperation becomes stronger, healthier, and more honest. The delays, silence, and emotional confusion did not happen to destroy the connection, but to transform the people inside it first. Your person is no longer the emotionally guarded version of themselves that once resisted everything they felt because losing access to you changed them completely. They now understand that while some people enter your life temporarily, others become a permanent part of your soul's direction. If your intuition keeps whispering that this story is not finished, trust yourself because the soul always recognizes incoming change before reality catches up. Like this video, comment 777 if you believe they're preparing to reach out, and subscribe for more messages about the person you love.